Good evening, and welcome to the council meeting of November 28th, 2022. This meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting package? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy and by motion, has adopted Robert's Rules as our rules of order, our parliamentary procedure. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? I note that all members of council are present and we have quorum. We have been provided with a proposed agenda. CAO, are there any other changes to our agenda?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I think this is just an order change. So the in-camera session should read Regional Sewer A, B, Personnel, C, Personnel, and D, Legal Update. So it's just an ordering issue.
Excellent, thank you. And one other item on the agenda is that the minutes we will be approving tonight are October 24th, 2022. And Councillor Maxwell, please.
Thank you. I'd like to add a statement that I'd like to make to the agenda, please.
All right, thank you, Councillor Maxwell. So that will be item 2B.
3B?
No, 2B.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. No, you're correct. 3B. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And that will be statement Maxwell.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. I'd like to have a discussion on the recent change to our streaming our live meetings. It's my understanding now that people at home are not able to comment during the live streaming, and I'm a little disturbed by this because we didn't get any warning. I'd like to have a little discussion on that.
All right. If it is the pleasure of council to add this to the agenda, all those in favor? Those opposed? And the motion is defeated. Thank you. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda as presented? All right. The agenda is ready for approval, and Deputy Mayor, you're moving that. And the seconder, please. Councillor York, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. I want to apologize to our CAO, Town of Kentville, and fellow councillors for my use of the word discrimination at our CAC meeting November 14th. It was not my intention to sound as if I was accusing our CAO or anyone else of being discriminatory. It was my intention to convey a perception only. I sincerely apologize for the use of the word, and I will attempt better terminology during debate in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO, did you wish to address Councillor Maxwell?
Councilor Maxwell, thank you very much for that. I truly appreciate it.
Councillor Maxwell, on behalf of council, thank you for taking the time to do this. All right, we move on now to the minutes of the October 24th, 2022 council meeting, and they were distributed for your review. Are there any changes to these minutes? If not, they will be approved as distributed. If there are, please let us know, and the recording secretary will annotate those minutes. No indication of changes, therefore all good as presented. So we move on now to our business arising from the minutes. And our first matter is the animal control bylaw. And our recommendation is that council approve second reading of the animal control bylaw, and the motion would read that council approve second reading of the animal control amending bylaw. If someone could move that, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And second, Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve second reading of the animal control amending bylaw. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor York.
Thank you. Section 2.13, where it says the fenced area must be located in a rear yard. When I was reading through it again for our meeting tonight, I realized that in my neighborhood specifically, and in older neighborhoods in the town, there are many properties that don't have a rear yard but would have rather a side yard. Is there a way that we can amend the language such that those without a rear yard but a substantial side yard, or that could meet the sizing requirements, also be included in there?
Could you repeat the reference? Sorry,
Yeah,
I was
it's,
trying to keep up.
Amendments 2.13, addition of 11E, the fenced area must be, 1, located in a rear yard. And then the setback of a minimum of 20 meters from any water courses. So it's the be located in a rear yard that might be problematic for some subdivision or areas in town that are just slightly older.
Right, okay, I will defer that to the CAO. Do we have some mechanism to, I'm gonna say, get around this for people who don't have a rear yard?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I think the piece, so first, most of the bylaws we looked at, that was kind of the language they went with. Part of it had to do with separation, and if you will, maybe it had to do with essentially from the street, you don't see it. So I think we would need to think about, I believe we would need to look at, is there something needed to be erected as a screen, as a fence, or something like that to go down that road? So it might take a little bit of work to come up with the right language around that. So that's just my general comments at this time.
My apologies for not noticing it earlier, which I appreciate does add work to staff plates.
So could we move forward with this and put that in as an amendment for review by staff and come back to us to determine whether or not we would amend the bylaw again at a
Amend the
future time?
amendment.
CEO, would that be acceptable as well?
As long as that's acceptable to council, for sure.
Okay, so you'll take that as action? All right, are there any further discussions on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve second reading of the animal control amending bylaw. I was getting worried. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. The next matter on our docket is with regards to the PACE Program Consolidated Bylaw. And the recommendation is that council approve second reading, and the motion reads that council approve second reading of the PACE Program Consolidated Bylaw. And if someone could move that, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve second reading of the PACE Program Consolidated Bylaw. Is there any discussion on this matter? And for those in our audience, PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's actually clean, it should be clean energy as per the, if you read the bylaw, that's the terminology, not the minute sheet. Yeah, no, it's all good. Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approves second reading of the PACE Program Consolidated Bylaw. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next matter we have is the 2023 Council and CAC meeting dates. That CAC recommend approval of the proposed schedule to council at the November 28th, and that council approve the 2023 Council and CAC meeting dates as presented. Deputy Mayor, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the 2023 Council and CAC meeting dates as presented. Is there any discussion on this matter? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is not including the other meetings that we spoke about at CAC, correct? That will come forward.
No, these are on the, they are on there as well for January to May. So you'll notice there's two, we're calling them both council advisory.
That's where I get
Committee?
confused. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
because
they're both-
recommendations from both meetings will have to go to
Right.
council for any approval.
They're both CAC. Okay, great. Thank you.
And the second meeting will only be held if there is business to transact.
Okay.
And you will know well in advance whether or not we'll have that meeting or not.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion on this matter? The question is that council approve the 2023 Council and CAC meeting dates as presented. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. And now we move on to our recommendations and reports, and the recommendations arising from the CAC meeting on November 14th will be read and moved by Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Maxwell, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, Council Advisory Committee, recommendation to council from capital reserves withdrawal. At the November 14th, 2022 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Director Deb Kroll submitted the request for withdrawal from the capital reserve for a number of projects, including a police vehicle, Public Works building, the pool and splash pad, Recreation Department vehicle, and seasonal lighting. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council approve of a withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve general allocation in the amount of $280,293.78. I so move.
Thank you, and a seconder, please. Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve general allocation in the amount of $280,293.78. Is there any discussion on this matter? It should be noted by council that this is a revised report from the one presented in our package at the November 14th CAC meeting. The protective service vehicle amount now reads $61,068.27 versus vice $54,375.16 as presented. And the public art display reads $5,800, vice the $5,259.59, changing the total sum from $273,060.26 to that reported at $280,293.78, the sum presented in this revised report. Deputy Mayor.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay. Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve general allocation in the amount of $280,293.78. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We will now move on to councillor reports, and your reports will be presented and are part of the record of this meeting. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Your Worship. My quarterly meeting of the Joint Fire Services was last September, and I've already done a report on it, so I have nothing to report at this time.
All right, thank you. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. Excuse me. The date of last council meeting was October 24th, and the last date of the CAC meeting, November 14th. I had 3 committee meetings, and I have listed 1 event in the town of Kentville with a list of miscellaneous events, which you can read in my report. The one thing that I want to, which was very interesting in one of my meetings, that I met with the navigator of the physician recruitment, and as normally we just chat about things, she had mentioned about, there was quite a concern about childcare for doctors coming in. And one of the biggest questions that are coming through is, do you have any nannies? And apparently there's no listing for nannies, so that was quite interesting, so she's gonna keep us updated on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On that matter, I believe the Valley Wren did a report during the COVID, like at the height of COVID with regards to childcare, because there was great concerns with kids not being in school and parents who still had to leave the home for work. So she might, I realize they're co-located, but she may not have asked them that specific question, but it may be something to ask, because it was quite a good report. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I had no committee meetings in this reporting period. However, I did attend a couple of, an event or two. I attended the November 19th Kentville Plays event in Oakdean Park. The weather was fantastic for this family event in Oakdean Park. There was a wide assortment of activities, from backyard-type games to face painting and a fire pit. Not to mention all the permanent playground equipment already in the park was being well used. The event was well attended, and once again, the Rotary Club was a hit with their hot dogs and hot chocolate and so on. Many thanks to Rotary and all the volunteers who helped make this event a huge success. Kudos to Kentville Recreation for a job well done. On October 25th, we all attended the council housing meeting. Well, some of us did. This was a municipal engagement session with Andrew Patterson from CoLab, which was involved in a province-wide housing assessment. The aim of the assessment was to assess gaps in current and future housing needs, specifically in our area. Our participation in this session was to contribute to the data. Final report should be due around September 23rd, or September 1923. That should be 2023. And that's my report, with a one grievous error there.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. And that's a really good point on the housing. There is a survey currently available online. So if there's any citizens who are interested in completing that survey, you should be able to get a quick link to it on our website. All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So last CAC and last council meeting attended, of course. And November 14th was Regional Sewer Committee. And so really the bulk of that meeting centered around consideration of the contract award for the aeration project. There's been quite a few moving parts to pull together the request for decision and developing a new and fulsome 5-year capital projection. There's been many discussions around this, so I will defer to the CAO on this. The CAO will provide council with an in-camera briefing tonight, so more to be heard on that. November the 9th was Investment Advisory Committee, where the market value of our portfolio is just north of 13 million. The year-to-date performance shows the fund down about 7.26% as compared to the benchmark, which is down 10.54%. Certainly, the anticipation is that the brakes will be pressed harder, rates will continue to increase in order to lower inflation, and the 2023 year will likely flow right into a recession, but our funds are safe as we remain strong in corporate bonds and have not yet ventured onto the equity side of things too much. Our view forward is that rates will commence a decline in 12 to 18 months, at which time we will venture more into the equity side of the markets, and the money market is looking better and better at a rate of 3.4. KBC was November the 16th. We had updates from the various committees, promotions and events, and the ED report. And upon receipt of the minutes, I will certainly include those in my next report. So I just wanted to take a moment and discuss and or refer a few items to the CAO as they relate to some recent discussions that I've had as I sit ex officio on the KBC board. There's been some communication with me as it pertains to their agreement, funding amounts, and what the way forward looks like as they plan for the ensuing year. So I would like to request, as I have outlined in my report, a report from the CAO that provides council with the information we might need when discussing the next KBC funding agreement, as KBC looks ahead to do their own strategic and financial planning for upcoming operational years. And given that our current agreement is coming up for renewal, I would request that the CAO report to council include these following items: the total funding amount currently being collected by TOK under the Economic Development Levy, the total funding amounts granted to KBC in each funding year since their reinstatement. November 2021, 2022 was their last agreement signed, but by default was extended to March 2023 by virtue of the approval of the operating budget, which transpired in March of 2022. Including showing the total amounts for core, facade, and special project funding separately for each year. And then lastly, the term lengths of the previous funding agreements and recommendation for a term length for future agreements. Did you get all that? It's in my report.
That's your report.
Okay, thank you. October 20th was Annapolis Valley's Best, which I attended. October 25th was the housing meeting. Councillor Maxwell reported on that with CoLab. I'll go back to NSFM in a minute. November the 18th was Holidays. Friday evening into the weekend, I attended various events. And I just noted that, you know, words cannot describe how this event made me feel about our town, our staff, KBC, and the greater community. It was a very magical night, and in a word, it was a hallmark event. The next morning, I attended the New Horizons breakfast, and I found out that I can almost become a member of New Horizons because I am almost a senior citizen. So that was interesting to find that out. I attended NSFM from November 2nd to the 5th. The title of the conference was Service with a Purpose. There was information around climate action. It was interesting to see what New Glasgow has done with their climate action plan. There was discussions around the Sustainable Communities Challenge, and I just have a question mark, are we accessing that fund? That's probably something that staff is looking at now. There were discussions around the Municipal Government Act revisions, the memorandums of understanding between provincial and municipal. There was discussions around policing, code of conduct, EPR resolutions, which is extended producer responsibility. There was a lot of discussion around that. Hopefully that will come to pass in the next year or so. And then around municipal funding. And then I just have some discussion there around Tim Houston spoke on a number of issues, our premier. And housing initiatives. I'm just going to make a comment on this. HRM, et cetera, spoke about housing and the crisis that we have here in Nova Scotia. They talked about the areas of growth in HRM and how they have accommodated all sectors of society. The goal is to create a master plan while focusing on inclusion for all as it relates to housing. And the idea there is to remove barriers and to show that mixed residential communities work and that it's our mandate to encourage mixed neighborhoods. Backyard suites, et cetera, which we've already discussed and approved and is already incorporated into our land use bylaw. And so that was exciting to hear about that, and that is my report.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to your note there, Kate. Councillor York, she got up at the mic at NSFM to speak and started to talk a little bit about the KCA breakfast program. And I think everybody in the room was in awe. So I just wanted to say, great job, Jillian. Thank you.
With regards to the Sustainable Community Challenge, this is not just about municipalities. So there's also means and ways of our not-for-profits accessing some of this funding. And you all received a link to it in your NSFM Monday memo last week. And I'm not sure if it's in this week's or not. I didn't look at it that closely before coming to this meeting. But if you know a group, I'm going to say the Frugal Moms, who may be looking for funding. I've sent this over to the Kings County Museum because they're looking at doing some upgrades for climate change. So if you know of a group who could use some funding, specifically with sustainable communities, so you've got to have those words in there. This is something to pass on. The first cohort, the applications need to be in by December 1st, so I realize that's a little short fuse right now. But if somebody already has their plan together, it's a matter of just transcribing it into this document and sending it off. So thank you for bringing that one up. All right, Councillor York.
Thank you. So I attended the same council and CAC meetings. I also had my Source Water Protection Committee meeting where it's the best philosophy of no news is good news, so everything is operating as it should, and it is anticlimactic, which is exactly what you want when we're talking about water protection. We had KCA PTA, where we distributed teacher and classroom grants, and we were able to fund, I think, all of the grants, I think there was one that we couldn't fund in full, but other than that, I think we reviewed 8 and funded all 8, which is wonderful. There are a lot of exciting initiatives coming to our students at that school through the creative and outside-the-box thinking of our staff and classroom teachers. It's wonderful to see. I also attended the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Committee meeting, where we were making plans for the arrival of the new CEO, who will be here in the new year. But also, we talked about library usership across the province, and then in particular, obviously, the Annapolis Valley. And then further to that, Kentville has seen a notable increase in its library usership. So more of our residents are using and borrowing and availing the services that are there, like internet services and computer services and classes and programs and all those wonderful things. But our usership is up, I think 20% even over 2019 numbers. So we are bouncing back with gusto, but it is something that we might want to keep an eye on in terms of the needs of a community and what is being accessed. Maybe we can get some statistics about the programs that are being accessed so we can have a better idea of what our residents are needing and wanting. Like most councillors here, I also attended Holidays and Kentville Plays. It was a wonderful event, or wonderful weekend of events, and special kudos to Ashley and Lindsay here in the town and their respective teams, as well as the Kentville business community and their respective volunteers for putting on yet another outstanding event. I think it was said earlier that it was truly like a Hallmark movie, which is really exciting to see. I also attended the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, or NSFM. I am working on an infographic that I just haven't finished yet to get a synopsis of what the week was like. But there were some really interesting takeaways, especially as we are considering our next steps and planning for the town of Kentville and growing and expanding our town. Lunenburg has recently redesigned their land use and municipal planning strategies, and it is wonderfully inclusive and welcoming and growth-centered. So it would be interesting to take a deeper dive into that as a council and see how other people are doing it. So as to not reinvent the wheel, but to get some wonderful ideas and planning for our town as well. My conference fees, as they related to NSFM, were $690 for the conference itself, and then $829.32 for the hotel fees, bringing my monthly total to $1,519.32. Recognize I probably haven't submitted receipts yet, but I will do that. Okay, sorry about that, Jennifer. But that's my report for the month.
Thank you. Councillor Sapien.
Thank you. So I attended the last council meeting and the last CAC. November 7th was Diversity Kings. They had some discussion on their terms of reference and on the recruitment of new members. For Kentville events, like my co-counsel here said, Holidays was great, and again, I'm going to thank KBC and the great staff at the town of Kentville for all they do. In the month of November, I did have dialogue with, again, citizens in McDougall Heights over the Bryson development, and Mitch Bryson also called as well and invited me for a tour of one of his developments. On the 18th, I had a discussion with the deputy mayor regarding the CAC meeting and some information that was relayed during that meeting. Also spoke with Mayor Snow late last week on the same issue. I do want to take a moment and just acknowledge the passing of Mr. Doug Morrison in Kentville. For those of you that didn't know Doug, he was a real entrepreneur. He came to town, I think his wife said, with $600 in his pocket, and Valley Stationers became an icon in town. Definitely a great man, and one of the first people that welcomed me to Kentville 10 years ago. So I still now miss him coming across the street and having a chat with him. So my condolences to his children. I attended his celebration of life last week and his beloved wife, Marianne. And my expenses this month were just cell phone, $36.50, and year-to-date is $323. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you for making that, that recognition of a longtime Town of Kentville businessman who really changed
And,
how
for-
downtown looks.
And also a former counselor, I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, CAO Troke, could you provide council with an update on operational matters discussed 2 weeks ago at the CAC meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Snow, appreciate that. A couple of things, obviously, there's been a lot of work going on with regional sewer, so we're going to be having some discussions around that in camera tonight. On November 17th, the Utility Review Board was here to have a conversation with regards to the boundary review. So very short session, but an opportunity to have some discussion on that. Staff have been involved in some EMO training. Yes, I hate to say it, but we're starting to talk about snowstorms and winter weather. And just from an infrastructure perspective, and I know if David Bell were here, McDonald Avenue, all of the infrastructure is in the ground now, so there's no more water lines above ground to be trying to address in the colder weather. The curbing machine is anticipated to be on site probably in about at least, well, we'll call it another week. And then obviously from there, they'll continue on with some of the road work to get us towards winter. The police commission, there's a number of things that have been lined up once the new police commission is put in place later tonight. And so some of that has to do with dates with justice around training and the chief lining up some orientations for staff. So those will be sent out to successful members very shortly following tonight's meeting. Those are my updates.
Excellent, thank you very much, CAO. Deputy Mayor, just give me a sec here. Go.
Thank you, Worship. Sorry, CEO Troke, with respect to Police Commission, you said justice training, and what was part two?
So the chief is going to give any new members an orientation to the police station and essentially to the staff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and my report, you have it in your package, and it's available online. With regards to highlighting a couple of events, Valley's Best was really one of those great events. It was a little bit different this year because on the 21st of October, they did it outside, and we enjoyed a really beautiful evening. So it was quite an incredible event. On the 26th of October, I was very pleased to attend an announcement up at NSCC Kings Tech. RBC was announcing that they would continue funding their Student Works program at NSCC for the next 3 years, which was absolutely wonderful. The same day, I did a quick swerve and went down to the KCA Grade 3 class and had the pleasure of reading the Pumpkin People book to our Grade 3 class. And the nice thing is that every year we ensure that every Grade 3 at KCA gets a copy of the Pumpkin People book. And of course, Spike joined us, and as always, Spike is always the star of the morning. So it was one of those really great mornings. And then on the 1st of November, again, I was at KCA, and we did the Great Pumpkin Drop. So students using physics and established criteria create pumpkin holding devices such that they can drop a pumpkin from 50 feet up high above the basketball court and see whether or not the pumpkin can last the drop. One pumpkin lasted this year, and then of course the cheers went up, and our fellows took that pumpkin up to the top and dropped it onto the court, and it smashed to smithereens. So it was a good day had by all. On the 9th of November, I attended Scotia Recycling for an announcement and a tour of their new blue bag sorting line, which is an $8 million investment in the Valley. Absolutely incredible. So 100% of the paper in our blue bag is sorted and recycled right here in the Valley. CKF is actually using the paper for egg cartons and the coffee cup trays that you get at Tim Hortons. And the cardboard is also 100% recycled by Maritime Paper Products into new boxes. If you get the opportunity to go over to Scotia Recycling and see this line, it's pretty cool. 10th of November, I had the pleasure of attending the NECEC Remembrance Day. I attended both the junior and senior ceremonies, and the grade 12 drama class did a wonderful job of putting on the event, and of course, they were accompanied by the senior band. 11th of November, we had our first Remembrance Day at the Cenotaph in 3 years, which was really well attended by folks in Kentville, so it was absolutely wonderful. 17th of November, the UARB was here, and we had the hearing to determine the size and distribution of Kentville Town Council. Our application to them was to request the status quo, but we haven't had their ruling yet, so we'll wait and see what happens from that. The 17th of November, I attended the Apple Blossom Board of Directors AGM, and they had a very good year despite things being downsized. And for 2023, the theme will be uniquely yours. 18th of November was Holidays in Kentville, and I don't think there's a better way of stating it than it was definitely a hallmark moment. So the committee meetings were Source Water, and as Councillor York said, no news is good news, and the same goes with our Water Commission. And as far as conference attendances, I attended the NSFM annual report, or conference, and my report is in with this report, and it was very well done. Again, 3 years in the making, and it was again very well attended. There was over 320 guests to it, and we actually made more revenue than we had anticipated. So it was all good, a very good conference, and that is my report. Thank you. All right, so we will move on now to our new business, and the first item on new business is our council appointments and to committees and commissions. And CEO Troke, we have received the responses from members of council with regards to committee appointments. Before we move forward, are there any changes requested by members of council? We will be voting on membership for committees where there are more than one candidate than positions, and each candidate will be provided with 90 seconds to state their reason for wanting the committee. So CAO, did you have anything that you wanted to highlight to us before we move on?
I just point out to folks that everyone was asked to pick their top committees they were interested in from 1 to 6. If you on the grid see an X, that's a mandatory. If you see the letter A, that means that it is an alternate position. And basically by working through this process, we really came down to just one committee, which is the Heritage Committee, which is new and has not been stood up yet. So I think the one that was circulated had in yellow the Physician Recruitment Board, and it had Heritage Committee, but I believe the only one after we reviewed that actually had a requirement to take a look at it was that of the Heritage Committee, where we had 2 councillors selected it as their third choice, thus being the second member. So outside of that, it looked like the rest of it pretty much worked out fortuitously.
Excellent, thank you, CEO. Councillor York.
Thank you. I don't see KCAPTA on the list, and I'm wondering if that is because it's just not maybe a council directive anymore, and if that's cool, great. And also, I will remove my name from the Heritage Committee to make this a bit of a seamless process, and I have plenty of committees given. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Zabian, you move into that Heritage Committee?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, why?
What's happening is our staff tend to go to that committee and do presentations when kind of requested. And so it was one of those pieces where we thought it would be more impactful because we can bring information. There are various folks, I know over the years from council have sat on that from different perspectives. So One of the things that, and so Director Bedingfield had looked at it and said there may be a more appropriate piece to do there where staff is attending more regularly for information and being able to collect information from that board and then bring it back. So it just seemed as a good fit moving forward.
Absolutely. And if it's the will of council, if they have any questions, I attend anyway, so I can give you the information if you have any questions.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I apologize for asking this question, but I do not know. The ones that are in green, like, for example, is that, the ones that are shaded in green, does that mean they are the ones that are assigned to those committees?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Does that work? I just want you to know that I had to arm wrestle Councillor York to get back on sewer because she was also considering sewer as the alternate. And I told her how much I appreciated and liked sewer, so.
Okay.
Was there any,
The only one for me would be the AV Physician Recruitment Board, but I do have a 4 beside that, but, so it wasn't necessarily in that order, but maybe
Yeah.
that's how it was interpreted.
yeah, that's what happened. I had a 2 and you had a 4, so my 2 trumped your 4.
I see, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, yeah, I guess, yeah. Joint Fire Services and Kings Point to Point, so those were other ones down on my scale, so those aren't for me as well either, correct? Yeah, okay, if they're not in green.
Yeah, okay. So before we move on to voting on this framework, I would let everyone know that if you are an alternate, there's not many meetings that you actually have to attend. However, if you are the person who's attending, ensure that your alternate knows if there's any issue. And if ever this case comes up where both the primary and the alternate cannot attend, please send me an email. Usually I can make room in my evening to attend a meeting, so I put that out there. Or, any other one of us to ensure that we do have folks at meetings. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I guess I'm a little confused. I don't remember, we didn't do it this way last year. Didn't we just kind of put X's and then we discussed it? And I didn't realize we were gonna trunk it with numbers and, yeah. Just a little confused with that. I don't know if anybody else has an issue with that, but there's some, like, for example, just for myself, I was hoping to be on the police commission and, I didn't know we were doing it that way. I don't think it was explained that way. I guess it makes sense now when I see it on a map, but yeah, I'm not for this format, but I'm just one person, so.
Okay. All right, when this went out, it was explained that each of us would select our committees in order of preference, and then the selection would occur from there. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, thank you. I didn't understand it that way either, but I must have missed that. I think I did, obviously. I know that we had to list from 1 to 6, correct?
Right?
Yep. But I didn't necessarily know that those were in any particular order. And I just did not know that.
Okay.
And I guess maybe Councillor Zabi and I are the only ones that didn't know that. But I did not, so.
Okay.
I didn't realize either.
So has anybody missed out on committees that they really, really, really wanted to be on?
Yeah, I wanted to be on the police commission, so I'm just gonna put that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else? Councillor Maxwell?
Oh, can I make a suggestion, maybe, that we do a vote on the police commission? We have 3 people there.
That does remind me, sorry, and it will likely come up in
Councillor York?
conversation. Sorry. My apologies. The citizen appointments, and it's likely a conversation for citizen appointments, but the application process listed 3 councillors on that committee.
in the application form that people filled out. So, we might need to look at that, anyway.
That was an error on an form
Okay,
when it was created.
okay,
That's my mistake.
okay, so we had an error there,
Okay.
okay. All right, is it the will of council to renegotiate the Board of Police Commissioners through a ballot vote? All those in favor? Those opposed? All right, CAO? So we have three people looking to get on the Police Commission, Councillor Gerard, Councillor York, and Councillor Zabian.
Two per person?
No, one.
Just one?
Yeah, just
There's
put,
two positions.
oh, that's right. Yes, sorry.
So that's, check those, make sure I get 7.
We could just rip those in half. Save on paper.
I have 6 and I only need 6.
No,
Talking about Willis?
all 7 of us have to vote.
Everybody votes.
Oh, I was just gonna do these sides.
Oh,
Sorry.
so. All right. Got 2 there?
I got 2, thank you.
Jumping ahead.
2.
Do what?
Do you wanna remind folks the 3 people that they're voting for?
So you're voting for one of 3 people, Councillor Gerard, Councillor York, or Councillor Zabian?
So one name on each piece of paper.
That's correct. Please. And when they come out of counting and make the announcement, I will ask for a motion to destroy the ballots. And then we'll go on to the motion to approve the slate.
Just can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there any, I'm not sure if Deputy Mayor, was there something there that you wanted to, you sure?
I will leave it, yeah, I'll leave it.
Based on the votes of council, the two members were Councillor York and Councillor Gerard.
Okay, thank you. And if I could have a motion to destroy the ballots? Councillor York, thank you. Second, Councillor Huntley, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And now the motion that council approve the slate of council member appointments to committees for November 2022 to November of 2023. Someone could move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Gerard. And Councillor Huntley for the second. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the slate of council members' appointments to committees for November 2022 to November of 2023. Is there any discussion on this matter? There's no discussion. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the slate of council member appointments to committees for November 2022 to November 2023. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, the next matter we have is Kings Regional Emergency Management Organization update. CAO, if you can provide us with that update.
Thank you very much. So Dan Stovall brought us all together for conversation, and the chair of the committee is Deputy Mayor Savage. Basically, we had updates with regards to the MOUs that exist essentially between Kings Remo and Kings Lunenburg Emergency Management Mutual Aid Agreement. Updates on the pandemic, amateur radio, quite a bit of discussion around social media, but most specifically around the readiness and use of various forms of media. We talked about everything from heat events. I know that seems like a while ago now, but much of the discussion is typically after storm events such as Fiona, an opportunity to take lessons learned from that and use those as updates for our next training exercises. So there was a few motions, most specifically with regards to mutual aid, and a motion with regards to approving the hurricane preparedness exercise action review. By default, what's happened is a number of months ago, all of the various councils had agreed that motions wouldn't have to come back to this council, that if they were approved at the committee, that then they would be approved. And so I guess for all intents and purposes, that would mean that's an update on these items. I guess the other piece, council may decide in the coming months, perhaps to bring Dan Stovall in for an update if there's any particular items folks would like to get an overview on. I do know that Remo is planning some additional exercises in the new year with regards to things like flooding preparedness. So there may be a desire for council to bring in Dan to do a bit of a review on some of that. So that's kind of a quick overview on that piece.
Excellent. Thank you very much, CAO. And Deputy Mayor, congratulations on your election to chair of the Remo. And did you have anything that you wanted to add to Dan's report?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next matter of business is the Board of Police Commissioners, and that is citizen appointments. And council is provided with the following recommendations to council for approval of membership on the Board of Police Commissioners. The members are appointed for a 2-year period, November of 2022 to November of 2024. And as a matter of process, will be appointed annually by recommendation of the Board of Police Commissioners to council. CAO, did you have anything further to add?
Just like to say that all of the applicants were reviewed by all of the directors here at the town. An opportunity to take a look at the strengths. The individuals we're bringing forward have a lot of experience, particularly in working either with police or good knowledge of police. A lot of experience in IT and using IT for education, which was a very strong tool. Also, most of the folks not only had experience in boards, but were actively involved in various boards, and some even have specific training with regards to that work. So the piece I would also add is typically we would receive a nomination from the province for the Department of Justice representative, where there is a number of vacancies throughout the province in this area. There's been a mutually agreed upon piece between the town and the Department of Justice that the town can put forward a name that then Justice would review. And so today, there's a recommendation for 3 names, and one of those names would move forward for consideration for the Department of Justice as their representative. And then obviously that individual would participate in any specific information or training regarding that.
All right. And CAO, did you want to speak to how this process came about?
So we had a complete opportunity. Obviously, we have 2 new commission members from council tonight. We have an opportunity for all of the members on the board to be new as citizen representatives and as the Department of Justice representative. So we went out and we had lots of interest. We actually had a lot of people who, called just to find out what it's all about, which is great from an information perspective. And the 3 names that we're bringing back are folks who are very eager to participate and are interested in, essentially working with the chief around developing the plans and policies that are needed here in the town.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Zabian, I see your hand up, but I'll give you room for discussion as we make the motion. So the motion is that council approve the citizen member Jamie Peerless to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, citizen member Virginia Brooke to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, justice member Samantha Hamilton to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. If someone could move that, please. Councillor York, thank you. And Councillor Huntley for the second. It has been moved and seconded that council approve citizen member Jamie Peerless to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, citizen member Virginia Brooke to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, justice member Samantha Hamilton to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. The floor is now open for discussion. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. I know all these people, they're great citizens. I just, for clarity, CEO, did you say that your directors shortened the list?
The
Okay.
directors did a review on all the applicants.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. My only question was around Samantha Hamilton, in as much as how was she differentiated to be part of to be the Department of Justice representative? I just wondered how, whereas the other 2 were not.
So the short answer is all 3 were pretty equally.
Okay.
And so there wasn't any A specific thing.
Okay.
B, there's some background in working in large organizations and working in very structured organizations.
Okay.
And so it really could have been any of the 3. And so it was one of those pieces where it seemed to be the best of a lot of good fits.
May I? So where she is the one representing Department of Justice, or the representative for the Department of Justice, her training will be different than Jamie and Virginia's?
CEO, please.
As typically what would happen is Justice would supply information kind of around what the provincial mandate in policing would be.
Okay.
And also would kind of have a lens where a report would come back from that individual through Justice. So there's kind of like you're sitting on a committee and who do you report back to? So as members here would report back here to council, this position would then report back to justice, kind of what's going on as well.
Okay.
One of the things that and I commend our colleagues with the province, they're very keen to work with all of the police commissions around the province as you get new members with training, but also to, work through orientations. And, they themselves have a number of vacancies around the province, so this process, which is a little different than in the past, is one that they recognize is allowing them to get good candidates forward relatively quickly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Just a quick question on the Department of Justice rep. Is, until they're approved by Department of Justice, are they voting members?
We were told that the expectation of justice is that the name coming forward be moved forward very quickly. So what we would anticipate is that all the members would go through training with justice within just a few weeks. And that then the first committee meeting would happen in January, and we believe that it would be approved at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is to recommend approval of the citizen member Jamie Peerless to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, citizen member Virginia Brooke to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. And further, justice member Samantha Hamilton to sit for a 2-year period, November 2022 to November 2024, on the Board of Police Commissioners. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We have no correspondence this evening. However, I wish to remind citizens on the matter of Bryson Development, all correspondence received has been logged in an electronic file to which all members of council and staff have access. The correspondence will form part of a file on this matter when it comes before council for reading and as part of the public hearing. So if you have sent us correspondence, you do not have to follow that up with any further correspondence. We have it on the record. Public comment. Citizens are invited to make comment to council on any matter currently before the council. Please state your name and address, and you will be provided with 3 minutes. Oh.
My name is Brent O'Connor. I'm a citizen of Kentville. I live at 18 Orchard Road. Congratulate everyone who was appointed to the Police Commission this evening. Wanted to raise 2 observations that as a citizen I find a little bit concerning. Number 1 is the characterization of the situation that resulted in the need to nominate 2 people as an opportunity. And secondly, the characterization in the motion that's been accepted of appointing them for 2 years when the current effective bylaws and policies don't express a timeline on that. I find it interesting that none of the councillors have noted that in their discussion here tonight. The standard procedure for nominating citizen members to the Police Commission is that on file, according to our policies in Kentville and the bylaw, that the Police Commission forwards the names to council. And in this case, for some reason, that process hasn't been followed. It's curious, and I think it deserves further attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. And although this is public comment time, and typically we do not respond to comments, however, I think the points that you bring forward are quite valid. And in normal circumstances, the Police Commission would have nominated citizens. However, our Police Commission was basically dissolved due to resignations of our membership. and therefore using a process that we used when we stood up our accessibility committee. The staff took it upon themselves to seek membership and then to do the review at staff level. So thank you. All right. So the council has several matters concerning regional sewer, personnel, and legal, which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for completion of the meeting or adjournment. So a motion to move into a closed session and discuss the agenda items. Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Huntley. It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. And the time is 7:04.